Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Brilliant as the Sun, a retelling of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 6, Divine Protection. We will be reading from chapter 13, Indra's Sinful Reactions. Mukam Karoti Vachalam, Pangum Langaite Girim. Yat Kripa Tamham Bande Shri Gurum Deen Tarinam Parmananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. Parikshit shifted uneasily. Shukadev said, "Is everything well with you, my dear king? Are you feeling disturbed by hunger and fatigue?" "Oh no," replied Parikshit. "Your words alone are nourishing and replenishing me." But he hesitated. Shukadev raised a querulous eyebrow. "Well, I fear some will misconstrue this incident," said Parikshit. "They will feel justified in killing devotees, and demons will pose as devotees. Such misinterpretations will create havoc in people's lives." Verse 1. Shukadev smiled. "O king, I am gratified to see that even as you prepare for death, you think of others' welfare. You are certainly charitable. I will clarify certain points regarding the incident between Indra and Vritra. When Vritra was killed, the chief gods and everyone else presented cheered. Everyone except Indra. He slumped to his knees with tears streaming down his face. Verse 2. The demon chiefs put down their weapons and ordered their soldiers to do likewise. Then their heads bowed, they departed. Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the generals in Indra's army, along with their soldiers, and the great saints who supported the gods, congratulated each other and left for their own abodes. Verse 3, Parikshit said, "O great sage, how is it all the gods were extremely happy about Vritra's death, but not Indra?" Verses 4 to 5, Shukadev said, "If you remember, Vritra's power had greatly disturbed the gods and sages, and they therefore urged Indra to kill him. Indra, however, knew that Vritra was a Brahmin and did not want to kill him. He had already suffered sinful reactions for killing Vishwaroop. It was only because of the favor of women, the land, trees, and water that he could rid himself of that sin by dividing it between them. He worried that if he again committed the same sin, there would be no redemption." Verses 6 to 7. The sages reassured Indra that he had nothing to fear. They promised they would perform an Ashwamedhi sacrifice as an offering to Lord Narayan. They assured him that pleasing Narayan can free one of the sinful reactions of killing the entire world, never mind one demon. Verses 8 and 9. When Indra still hesitated, they said, "Indra, hear from us the sins that chanting Narayan's holy name can free you from. It has saved those who have killed Brahmins, cows, and even their parents or spiritual master. Narayan's holy names can free anyone, even those from degraded families such as dog-eaters and all other low-class people. What then of you? You are a devotee, and we will help you by executing an Ashwamedh sacrifice. If you satisfy Lord Narayan, you have nothing to fear. You can kill the entire universe. What to speak of this troublesome demon and still be untouched by sin?" Parikshit looked shocked. Can people sin as they like and just turn to Narayan to be released from the sinful reaction? "Not exactly," said Shukadev with a smile. Chanting the Lord's holy names under the guidance of Krishna's pure devotee can purify sinful people, but such purposely devised atonement will not work. This will be clear if you continue to listen carefully." Verses 10 and 11. Indra, however, believed them and killed Vritra. The other gods lived happily after Vritra's death, but not Indra. His sinful reactions were heavier than normal because he had sinned on the strength of atoning. Nothing gave him relief from misery, neither his wealth nor his good qualities like tolerance. Did the Brahmins not do an Ashwamedh sacrifice? Indra had to first suffer because before any atonement could work, they too had to suffer for a long time because they had advised Indra to sin on the strength of atonement. What happened to Indra? Listen and I will tell you. Indra pulled himself off the ground, heavy at the heart. No one had spoken to him asking if he was well. They had just left. Such was the way of material friendships. Not even the Brahmins had remained to rid him of the sinful reactions incurred in killing Vritra. Verses 12 to 15. A foul, fishy stench filled his nostrils. He gagged. Where was it coming from? Indra, wait a moment, I am coming. He looked around. In the distance, he saw a woman with a walking stick coming hurriedly toward him. She was very old, so much so that all her limbs trembled. He saw that blood covered her clothes. Who has hurt you? He called out. As she tried to answer, she retched up blood which oozed down her chin. No one hurt me, dear, she called back. It's my tuberculosis. Who are you? What do you want with me? Oh dear, don't you know why I am your sinful reaction for killing Vritra? Soon, my dear, I will embrace you. And then, without even mounting a rabbit, Indra turned and fled. Wait, Indra, there is no point running away. I may be old and sickly, but I will catch you. Indra flew into outer space, looking frantically behind him. He saw his personified sin chasing him. He rose to the upper planets, all the way to Brahma's abode. But no matter where he went, she followed him. Indra's heart pounded in terror. How could he escape her? He thought of Krishna. Only he could save him. The anxious god sped to the earth planet, heading for Vrindavan, Krishna's abode. He saw the lake of Krishna's pastimes, there called Manas Sarovar, and immediately dived into it. By his mystic power, he reduced his size and hid in the fibers of one of the many lotus flowers growing there. His personified sin tried to follow him, but she was barred from entering the lake by followers of Lord Shiva, who guarded it and who Indra had somehow eluded. She continued to lurk in the area, waiting for him to emerge. You will have to come out one day, dear, she called. Indra cowered in the lake for 1,000 years, trying to think of how he might be relieved of the sin of killing Vritra. Not receiving any sacrificial offerings, he suffered severe hunger pangs. His friend Agni, the fire god, tried to bring him his share of the offerings, but he too could not get past Shiva's followers. The story fascinated Parikshit, who ruled the heavens while Indra was in hiding. He asked, verse 16, as long as Indra stayed concealed in the lotus stem, Nahush ruled Swarg. The sages installed him because of his knowledge, austerity, and mystic powers. Unfortunately, he was cursed by one of them because of them during that time and later became a snake. Why was Nahush cursed? Parikshit asked, surprised. Maddened by his newfound opulence, he demanded that Indra's wife accept him as her husband. She confided in Brihaspati, who advised her to tell him she would accept him as her husband if he came to her carried by Brahmins. Blinded by lust, he ordered Agastya and other sages to carry him to her. On the way, he kicked Agastya to make him walk more quickly. Angered by this, Agastya cursed him. Parikshit nodded in understanding. It was all too easy to be carried away by pride, he said. I'm curious to know why Indra hid in the lotus stem. Was the water of the lake not sufficient to protect him? Verse 17, a good question, my dear king. Lord Vishnu's wife, the goddess of fortune, lives in the lotus clusters of Manas Sarovar lake. Indra hid there because he wanted her protection. While he was there, he constantly meditated on Lord Vishnu. Pleased by this, Rudra, who presides over the directions, destroyed his sinful reactions, and the Brahmins invited Indra to post in heaven. Verses 18, the Brahmins invited Indra to return to his post in heaven. Verses 18 to 21, when Indra returned to heaven, the celestial sages headed by Marichi initiated him into performing a horse sacrifice. They did the sacrifice in worship of Vishnu, and it nullified the last traces of sinful reactions accrued from killing Vritra. By the mercy of Marichi and the other Brahmins, Indra regained his exalted position and everyone again honored him. Verses 22 to 23, my dear King Parikshit, hear now from me the benefits of hearing this wonderful history, which is highly auspicious. It is replete with glorification of Krishna and his devotional service. Descriptions of devotees like Indra and Vritra, of Indra's victory over the demons, and of his subsequent release from sin. Whoever correctly understands its import will become free of all sinful reactions. By regularly hearing this history, one will become expert in his endeavors. His opulence will expand, his reputation will become widespread. He will conquer his enemies and his lifespan will increase. Because this narration is so beneficial in all respects, learned scholars regularly hear and repeat it on every festival day. So with this, we come to end of the chapter 13. Next time we'll read from chapter 14, King Chitraketu's grief. Thank you for joining. Hari Om Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.